Most Britons believe that the exit from the European Union was a failure. Around 60% believe the decision was a mistake. Just 10% think Brexit is going well for now, and just 30% expect it to be positive in the long term. So, let's talk about it.
What would you say are like the visible benefits of Brexit?
I'm really noticed any.
People are really struggling. I personally am struggling. I'm a widow. I'm struggling. The government lied to us. In fairness, they did lie to us. They never told us the truth.
The cost of Brexit to the UK's economy is £140 billion according to new independent analysis. And some are starting to regret the decision.
Do you say that you regret voting to leave?
Partially, yeah, a little bit.
I did vote for Brexit, but with hindsight, if I could change my vote, I would change it now.
The new report by Cambridge Econometrics, commissioned by City Hall, also shows that London's economy has shrunk by more than £30 billion.
Why is the cost of living so high? Why are they pushing their prices up 25p at a time? There's a lot of questions to ask, but sadly, there are no answers from anybody.
I came shopping now, went to Asda's, I went to, Lidl. I've budgeted like 100 quid. I've spent over 200 and something quid. It's crazy. Electricity is skyrocketing. I literally had to call my energy supplier yesterday. I said, what's going on?
It is also calculated that there are nearly 2 million fewer jobs overall in the UK due to Brexit, with almost 300,000 fewer jobs in the capital alone.
I met a lot of people. They believe that after Brexit, everyone will be rich, will be a lot of workplaces. It's not like that.
According to the new research, the economic damage is only going to get worse, with more than £300 billion set to be wiped off the value of the UK's economy by 2035 if no action is taken, and more than £60 billion wiped off the value of London's economy alone.
Have you been impacted by Brexit?
Well, we all have. Of course we have, yes. If the cost of living is a reflection of what Brexit was all about, well, it's been a disaster, quite frankly.
At least we're in charge of our own destiny now.
The most obvious and direct impact of Brexit was to reintroduce significant barriers to trade between the UK and its largest trading partner. So it's here that the impact should be the most salient. And indeed, the headline result is that the UK's trade performance has suffered considerably. The Office for Budget Responsibility notes that the UK's trade intensity has fallen significantly and considerably more than other advanced economies. Most academic analysis suggests that Brexit is at least partly responsible. Using synthetic differences in differences, they found that Brexit has had a large and continuing negative impact on UK goods exports, with particularly large impacts on smaller firms. Confirming this with more qualitative evidence, they find that the imposition of new non-tariff barriers through Brexit has proved particularly challenging to smaller firms in manufacturing supply chains. However, Office for National Statistics trade data suggests that rather than seeing as simple trade models of the impact of Brexit would imply a sharp fall in UK's trade with the EU in both goods and services. Goods trade has been weak across the board, while services trade has held up well. Moreover, there is little evidence of a differential impact on UK exports to the EU compared to exports outside the EU, although they also find that smaller firms have been more adversely affected. There are plausible but as yet unproven explanations for this. On the one hand, conventional trade models fail to take full account of how Brexit has impacted the UK's participation in global supply chains. On the other hand, strengthened service exports reflects the UK's strong position in high-value sectors like consultancy, where there are few barriers to trade, and where the pandemic has actually helped normalize the remote delivery of services. To further complicate the issue, there are numerous anomalies in the data. So while it's reasonable to conclude that Brexit has damaged the UK's trade performance, both the magnitude and the mechanisms remain open to question.
The Brexit deal that we eventually ended up signing has impacted different bits of the economy in different ways. It's very difficult for agriculture. It's very difficult for the creative industries. It's very difficult for some parts of manufacturing.
Please subscribe if you find this video informative, and please hit that notification bell so you will be notified when we drop another video.
it's clearly hurting business, and business drives our economy forward. Everybody wants growth, but I'm not sure the government or the future government of whatever hue is saying anything that says they want to make Brexit work.
The relatively low level of business investment in the UK predated Brexit, but both aggregate data and survey evidence strongly suggest that Brexit is at least in part responsible for the particularly poor performance since 2016, with investment perhaps 10% lower than it would otherwise have been. That in turn might translate to reduction in productivity, and hence output of a little over 1% of GDP. One key question here is whether this reduction reflects at least in part Brexit-related uncertainty, in which case some catch-up might be expected. So, taking all this together, what's the bottom line? First, the public is right. Brexit has damaged the UK economy, but inevitably, the mechanisms and hence the impacts have been considerably more complex than economists could incorporate in macroeconomic or trade models, with their inevitably simplifying assumptions. To simplify hugely, however, it would be reasonable to say that the impact on trade overall has been broadly consistent with predictions so far, that on immigration much less negative and perhaps even positive, and on investment somewhat worse. UK goods trade has underperformed other advanced economies by around 15% since the Leave vote, while business investment has fallen notably short of pre-referendum levels. Meantime, immigration from the EU has fallen, a key pledge of the Vote Leave campaign, only to be replaced by a less economically active cohort of non-EU migrants, primarily students. Taken together, the evidence points to a significant long-run output cost of Brexit. The reduction in trade was in line with expectations, and the underperformance in investment was more pronounced than anticipated. However, it said the shifts in immigration patterns posed the most important cyclical repercussions for the UK economy and inflation in particular. The post-Brexit change in immigration flows has reduced the elasticity of labor supply in the UK, contributing to the post-pandemic surge in inflation and pointing to more cyclical labor market and inflation pressures going forward. UK real GDP per capita has barely risen above pre-COVID levels and currently stands 4% above the mid-2016 level. That compares to 8% for the Eurozone area and 15% for the US. Meanwhile, the UK has recorded higher inflation over the period, with UK consumer prices rising 31% since mid-2016 compared with 27% in the US and 24% in the Eurozone. While the report noted that new non-EU trade agreements could potentially mitigate the costs of Brexit, estimates suggest that the benefit is likely to be small. The British government estimates that its free trade agreement with Australia will boost the UK GDP by 0.08% per year, while the economic impact of a new trade deal with Switzerland is unclear. Meantime, the timelines for prospective new trade deals with major partners such as the US and India have not yet been announced. So, let me ask you, do you think Brexit is going well for now? Or do you believe the decision was a mistake? Or we just need to give the move time, things will be positive in the long term?